Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another live segment. We actually are having a collaboration today with Zelos. So this video today is brought to you by Zelos. We actually secured a collaboration with them. And I want to talk about the brand as we have some people come in. And if you're watching on the playback, I do appreciate you guys spending the time to watch these unboxings, which I wouldn't be able to do unless I had your support. So I really do appreciate everybody who supports this channel, which makes this possible for me to do these collaborations and for these brands to be interested in either sending me a watch where they gift it to the channel, which is this case for Zelos, their new release, or borrowing watches, which we actually received a package in the mail for another unboxing for next week, which we're going to do for a fantastic brand. East Strolin is the brand in Maryland. He makes fantastic watches, so I'm super excited next week to do an unboxing with you guys then. So I want to start off talking about Zelos a little bit before we get to the unboxing, because we have to wait for people to come in and settle down and be part of the conversation. That's the whole point of doing this. And of course, showing my appreciation for you guys supporting the channel and me being able to do this. Anyway, so Zelos, let's talk about them. They are a brand that is recognized by a lot of enthusiasts, and it's for a good reason. They make fantastic watches and they do their runs in kind of a limited type of fashion, which creates this ecosystem of a collective enthusiast who feel very special when they purchase their watches. Now, that could be somewhat seen as a little bit of an aggravation, I understand. They do sell out of their watches very quickly, so if you do miss the boat, unfortunately you do. And they're actually releasing this watch very soon. We'll get into that. So if you are interested in any of their new lineups for the Mako, I urge you to, have everything set in motion for you to make the purchase. Lone Ranger's in the building. What's up, brother, man? Good morning to you. So first things first, wrist check. I'm wearing my Noctua watch, which is a fantastic diver from my man JP. Noctua is a brand new brand, and we do that a lot, right? We cover brands that have been in business for 11 years, which is the case for Zelos here. And then we also cover watches that are brand new to the market, which is exciting for me because we cover a good range of what's out there, what's coming up, what's on the radar. And that's the whole point of this channel, to inform. Now, Zelos, from the beginning, they went from flipping luxury watches to being founded in 2014. So we're talking about a brand that has 11 years of experience in the game. And we're going to talk about why that's important as well. Elson Tang is the brand owner, okay? And he studied at the National University of Singapore for mechanical engineering, right? So we could see why he would be interested in the watch game. So he studied mechanical engineering, he graduated, of course, and then he launched Zelos after starting a pre-owned watch trading and collecting Seikos from the age of 15, right? So all of this ties into what the inspirations are for the brand. They actually started off with divers, of course. That's usually common with micro brands because that's the most sought after type of watch that you can have for the market, right? So remember, he started off trading higher end brands, right? We're talking about Rolex and Omega and everything else of the like. And that's going to play a role because that's part of the discussion that I have here on these lives. I advocate for micro brands being a luxury type of feel, right? You're getting a lot of value as you would with luxury brands, and we're seeing them improve over the years dramatically. Now, I'm going to stop myself because I see some people are coming in. Good morning, everyone. Oscar, good morning, brother. I always appreciate your support. Thank you for moderating today's live. Lillerbug, good morning, good morning. Welcome in. I don't think I've seen you here before. Welcome to the channel. So here's the deal, guys. One thing I want to say, you might notice that my tempo is a little bit different today. I'm a little slowed down, and that's for good reason. I noticed on my last live and lives previous that I have been missing the chat, and I want to take the time to apologize to you guys. This is something that I'm still getting my 2 feet on, right? Doing these lives and keeping up with tempo, keeping things interested. It's a skill that I'm developing here. So if I do miss anything on chat, please feel free to reapply it. If you saw that I missed it and skipped over it, I do try to scroll back, but I'm going to put a heavy emphasis on keeping up with you guys in chat. It's very important that I respect the time that you guys are taking to be a part of these lives, actually live. And I also respect the fact that people do a lot of playback, right? I get hundreds of views on the lives on the playback. So if they see a question and they would have liked that answer, that's very important to me. Too cool for school. This should be the full name. What is your forum about? So we're talking about watches here. My channel is specifically gauged for watch talk, watch enthusiasts of the like. And today, too cool, we're actually doing unboxings from a very famous brand called Zelos. And I'm starting this off with some back history. I'm going to get back to that because I do want to get to the unboxing portion. I have it right in front of me. It is going to be exactly how you guys would receive the watch. So that's very important for me to also showcase that as well. So Kickstarter is where Zelos technically started off. They launched their first watches on that to reach out to the enthusiasts. And we have to understand something about Kickstarter and micro brands, right? I know that there is a type of feel with Kickstarter because some of them don't honor their arrangements to get watches out quicker. Sometimes they don't do it at all. That's not always the case. And I think that there was a lot more success with Kickstarter and watch releases back in the day, probably around where Zelos started 11 years ago, where it was more of a honoring the code of getting the watches out there. Now we're seeing a lot of people run and gun. No shade to anybody who is utilizing Kickstarter. Realize this, ladies and gentlemen. Kickstarter is also a forum where these watch brands can get a bigger reach, right? So not every time where you see a watch company start in Kickstarter do they actually need it. However, they do need the exposure, and especially when it's a micro brand, we realize that there is a need for them to be able to reach their audience. So Kickstarter is technically where Zelos began. Following up with an online store that you guys are aware of now. We're going to take a look at that online store for this release as well, because that's very important. Again, they have very limited runs when they do their stuff, so you have to pay attention to their website. Not all the time do they sell out on every single model right away, but they do it pretty well. There is a high success, even when we're talking about a range of $400 to, let's say, $2,500 when we saw that they released their new Pilot watch. That actually is sold out on their website. So they are very successful. They have a very good following, and it's for good reason, and we're gonna get into that. I like Citizen watches. Their self-winding and glass has a yeah, absolutely. Citizen is a fantastic watch, especially for people who are getting into the watch game. Too cool. Their specifications are something to brag about. Of course, they also own Miyota, so a Miyota movement is heavily utilized in a lot of watches. So without Citizen, without Seiko, a lot of these companies wouldn't exist. So I definitely am a fan of Citizen as well. And it's whatever watch you have, it's a fantastic watch. Good morning, Raymond. Yes, sir. Badass collectors. Absolutely. We'll put a little bad word in here today, even though this is family friendly, because you're absolutely right. Everybody in here is a badass collector, and I leave it to you guys if you consider myself part of that as well. Good morning, Raymond. Good morning, Oscar. Okay, so also realize Zelos is self-funded, right? He likes to ride solo. He believes in having full control over the company. It's something that's very important to him. And after the 10 years of time of being in business and being successful, he definitely had the opportunity to outsource and bring partners on, but he really likes to stay in control of the company, which is important because we talked about the history of ProTech and Barrycone, and how when he was in the other company, we won't mention everything, but when he got investors in, they clashed heads. So I agree with Zelos staying true to having control fully of the company, especially with their success. And listen, he's been doing fantastic with the designs. Also coming out with as many collections as he does, it's rather impressive that he's able to keep up with not only the demand of a new design, but also being successful in those designs in general. So there's a lot of success here with this company, and it's a good reason why a lot of people follow them, right? So Zelos usually produces about 10,000 watches a year. This was a number that was quoted in 2021, so I'm not sure if he's raised the bar at this point. I do know that he rather keep the collection tighter. Again, I've talked about how brands aren't trying to sell a million watches a day when we talk about the micro brand and independent brand space. They like to stay in where they feel comfortable to be able to keep that quality control and be self-sufficient and be happy with the success that they have. So again, a limited editions with Zelo watches, of course. The watches are all released as numbered unlimited. Now, when they release their watches, that's not to say that they're going to sell out on every single model. Of course, the more popular ones are probably going to be sold right away. So keep that in mind, that that's the kind of business aspect that they like to run, which is nice. You know, back in the day, I would have said that that's kind of annoying, because I would have said, hey, if I really wanted that design. But as I matured, I realized that having a watch that is more limited and is going to be on the wrist of less enthusiasts is kind of fun. And then they have their ecosystem on Facebook where they're trading a lot of watches and everything else. So we'll talk about some of those ecosystems as well. I think I'm good on chat. Again, guys, if I miss anything on chat, please restate it. I want to get every single one of your comments. That's my goal. That's my real goal for this live. So Zelos as a company has an evolving product range. Initially, they have focused on dive watches, right? So with the Seiko automatic movements, Zelos has expanded, including affordable GMTs powered by also Swiss Sellita movements and premium manual wind models as well. So a range, right? I always talk about a range when it comes to a company. And I'm not trying to say that every company has to navigate this way, but I do like when they have, and I don't call them entry levels, but I call them price points where people can afford to be part of the team. These micro brands are, in my eyes, teams. And if you want to wear their jersey, I hope that they have a span where they can cover a lot of grounds and people can actually purchase their watches. Maybe they're new to watch collecting and they're more comfortable getting something that's more affordable before they spend, you know, over $1,000 plus, right? And Zelos executes this very well, so I'm giving them flowers for that as well. So we have a range of movements that they like to utilize. We saw that on their last release for their Pilot. It actually was a very stellar movement that they actually went in and refurbished, redesigned for their watch. So very nice, very nice. Exotic materials is something else that Zelos is known for. They use a lot of different exotic materials, including bronze, meteorite, tantalum, Damascus, which is that's titanium that has color in it. You'll see that I think that was with their first release and also their 10-year anniversary watch within the dial. So that was a beautiful watch as well. And they like to play around with a lot of designs to give their watches a very unique look. And that's something that they stick by, whether we're talking about more of their affordable watches stepping in all the way up to their more expensive lines, of course. But there's good reasons why they are at that price, because they're offering more. So with that being said, I want to show you guys what the new lineup looks like for Zelos, and this way you guys are aware of the release of everything going on. So this is the Mako line that they're releasing now, and they have a bunch of different watches that they are re-releasing. So they wanted to go back into a design and a watch that they originally had, and I like that. I like breathing new life and new design into watches. So these are the four. I believe there's four that they are releasing. Hang on, no, there's more than four, excuse me. 6, so 2, 4, 6. So these are all the colorways that they have on offer right now for this 40 Mako release that they're doing. And there are improvements to this release that they're doing as well. And then you guys can see that there's only about 3 days worth of time left to get on the horn and make your purchases so you don't miss out on that release. Which is, again, I'm emphasizing that because if you like what you see, you have to pull the trigger. This is not a sales pitch. By all means, do your own research. The watch that I have here today was done as a review, a deep dive by another watch collector. I'll add that in the description so you guys can do a little bit more homework, because I'm not able to do a deep dive of it just yet. However, we're going to cover the basics and the overall aspects and first impressions of taking it out of the box, making sure that I catch up on chat. We're all good. Beautiful. So, okay, so I have here my notes, unboxing portion now. So the Mako Diver hasn't been around for a while for Zelos. They wanted to refresh the collection by offering new colorways, which I just showed you guys. Go to their website. It's already in the description if you want to get a closer look at all of their collections. The one we have here today, well, let's unbox it. I think it's fair enough that we unbox it at this point. I let you guys listen to me rant for 15 minutes. But it's important to go over the history of the brands to really understand where they came from, where they're going, where they're out, and everything else of the like. So this is the box that you're going to receive from Zelos. This is exactly how they send it to their customers. That's how I like to show you guys. And I want to open it up to see what's inside of the box, right? How is their packaging? How are they putting their watch and everything else? this has been a thing, and you guys are probably familiar with their warranty card. This is actually metal, okay? So when it comes to branding, when it comes to um, really putting yourself out there in a professional level, like this thing is metal, right? So that's really, really a nice touch. It's translucent. It has a nice colorway to it. So I think that's actually pretty cool. And it's something that I'm probably gonna keep instead of throwing away. Almost like a metal credit card, if you will. Very nice quality. So this is the way Zelos likes to package their watches. It's in a watch roll. You guys can't obviously touch and feel, but the quality feels fantastic. We have branding here in the very front of it, which is very nice. And before we even open this up, what I'm expecting inside of this watch roll, there are different versions of the watch roll, right? Some of them are looser, some of them have the little buttons on the sides. I like the ones that slide out, and I hope that's the one that they have in here. So we have to keep in mind also as well, some people get intimidated by the fact that this is a hard, I don't know if this is metal, maybe it's just a hard plastic, but the packaging already gives us a clue that there is money spent into that packaging, right? And that rubs some people the wrong way sometimes because they rather the money just be saved if they can. However, the price point on this is still absolutely fantastic. So as we unpack it, we're gonna keep that in mind. So we have the watch roll here. We're opening it up, and here we go. This is the watch that was sent to me. This is the meteorite version with the baby blue indices and the baby blue hands on here and everything else. This is the version that slides out, okay? So I'm gonna try and show you guys. Let me see. So these slide out, so they're super secure, and they have these little panels on the side that keep everything nice, snug, and secure. I find that to be a little bit better than the buttons. I know we're, first world problems, but at the end of the day, I feel like that's the most comfortable way to do it. So let me show you guys the watch. So this is the version, this is the meteorite. Now I chose this one specifically because I don't have meteorite in my collection yet. And again, we talked about the materials that Zelos likes to use. Maybe you feel that meteorite isn't, it's kind of commonly used now. However, it's still nice to have that kind of option when it comes to it, especially when they're looking back at their collection and they're trying to breathe new life into it. So first time me getting a meteorite dial, I absolutely love this already. I can tell that it's going to be a very nice watch. I don't think there's any plastic in front of it. This is the first time me completely opening it up, and cool looking material. Yes, definitely cool looking material. Definitely harder because it is meteorite to handle. But let's keep going with the notes. The meteorite is also in return for this collection, obviously. Light blue lume, so all those indices are of course lume. We'll get the lume shots when I do the deep dive review. This is just an unboxing first impressions. I still do, as you can see, a deep dive, but you guys will get more of the cinematic stuff with the B-roll and the lume and everything else of the like. So there's a few subtle changes with the new Mako, okay? They are a brand, and we always talk about this, they are a brand that likes to listen. And they're 11 years old now, right? So not only are they selling watches at a very successful rate, but they're still listening to us on what we think and feel for the improvements to their watches. And they made sure to include some fantastic changes to their watches on this new release, which again, I gotta give them flowers where flowers are due, because that is something to me that gains respect, right? You're not too big for your bridges. You're saying no. My part of my value as a brand is to listen to the enthusiasts, the nerds. You guys are the watch wizards, and the muggles wouldn't understand all of this, but you guys are interested in small changes like a better bezel reaction, a better bezel sound, a better click, those little super nerdy things. How much does this particular one? I'm gonna get into the pricing. I have that in my notes. I think it's around 5 and change, but I do have that in my notes. Liker, I'll get to that as well. And on the description, if you want to go over there now to their page to see the pricing, you can do so in the description below. So some of the changes, like I said, that this watch now has, it has a much smoother feel and sharper click compared to the older styles in the bezel. So there is improvements to the physicality of this watch. Another update is that we have female end links now, right? To be more strap friendly, or more bracelet friendly, if you will, for those with smaller wrists to fit this. Let's see what other changes. Yep, so that means a 1 millimeter increase in lug to lug overall, but because it's a female end link, it's going to wrap around the wrist a little bit better. So keep that in mind. There's also a new logo index for the dial. Some people have already commented on that logo. For me, I like the logo. This is my first Zelos, yeah. So I'm not sure what the logo was prior. I should have looked that up, but I still like this. It's almost like a bead blasted. We saw something similar to the Jack Mason. It's there. It's prominent. It's proportional. It's correct. It's lined up beautifully, of course. So I'm not mad at it. So launch prices. We're getting to the prices. What is it? Iliker. We're getting to the prices now. So there's also a new logo index. I said that. So launch prices are kept steady at $429 for some models. For the Meteorite is going to be $529. Now, I want to talk about this because price versus value versus the times that we're in and the prices that go up on other brands is a thing, and it's very important for us to make sure that we're getting the value that we get. Let me catch up on chat. Enjoy the Zelos guy. Thank you, Jay Watch. I appreciate your support. You also send a message to me on Watch Crunch. That watch is 5. Thank you, sir. Look at that, man. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Like co-hosts. JC Watch, I appreciate you, brother. I am gonna definitely enjoy this watch for sure. And guys, just so you know this, if you don't know this about me, I know I have a few new people in here. The brands send me the watch. Sometimes I can keep them, and when they give them to me, I keep them. They go into my collection. They stay with me, much like this Noctua watch that was sent to me. I keep them because I also incorporate them with the lives moving forward. I feel like when I have these conversations about micro brands, it's nice to have micro brand watches. No shade to anybody else that moves on for the watches that are given to them. If they have to sell them, I don't know their situation. My situation is this. I have a watch channel and I have to have watches to talk about it, right? To be fair. Now that I'm part of the Zelos team, I want to be able to take this watch and maybe we do another collaboration in the future where we can see the iteration from this one to the next, or maybe I do a comparison, or maybe I'm talking about divers. The point is this, the relevance of the topic that I have in mind will go to the watches that were sent to me, and I love to have them on hand because I rather speak from experience and I rather speak from a direct comparison having it in hand. Fair enough. So $529, like my man JC said, is the price for this Meteorite. They have other iterations that I showed you guys for $429 at a great price point. Okay, so even though keep that in mind, right? They did those upgrades to the watch, right? Because they knew that watch nerds like us are going to want them. However, they still didn't increase the price. And I think that that's magnificent. I think that really shows us that the brand cares more about making us happy in their ecosystem from purchasing their watches rather than just saying, and look, if they had to raise the price, it is what it is. I don't want to throw shade to companies that have to raise the price, but it's nice, and it's a nice warm feeling when they can keep it nice and tight and keep things within linear for that pricing. So 40 millimeters is what we're talking about here. 47 millimeters lug to lug. It has a height of 14.7. Now, that's important in this conversation because I have a lot of collectors on here that like bigger, robust watches, and I'm talking about Invicta. We have some people here that from my collaborations through Travis, you guys have followed me on here, and likewise, hopefully, because I always shout out his channel. If you guys are looking for a great watch channel as well that does lives like this, he's actually the master of them. Trap Vision 3D is his channel. But my point is this. I know a lot of you guys who collect bigger watches aren't happy with the companies that you're with right now. Perhaps maybe you're looking for an alternative. Maybe you're on our channels and you're seeing that we're going more towards micro brands. So if you like something that's a little bit more robust on wrist, this is going to be a 14.7 millimeter and a 40 millimeters. So it's going to be a nice heft to it. It's not going to be one of those smaller watches. I actually have a few watches next to me that we're going to drag into the conversation as well. But all that being said, we have 300 meters of water resistance, okay? Miyota 9015, right? So we have the date wheel as opposed to the 9039, right? And the date wheel's in the right position. If you like it at the 3 o'clock, you like it at the 3 o'clock. But I feel like at the 6, the date wheel aperture just molds a little bit better. And then I don't know if you guys can see, but they have a little indice right underneath that date wheel aperture, which, listen, if it didn't have it, I'd be okay, to be honest with you, but I think it is smarter to have more of a continuation to your loom because remember those indexes, those indices are going to have loom despite them being a color. And I am expecting it still to be of a bright quality. It does make me a little nervous when they're black or if they're a different shade, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be weak, right? It's all about how much luminescent material that you're applying on the hands and on the markers to achieve what you need to achieve. Okay. So sapphire double domed, which makes sense because we got that 14.7 on height. So you guys could kind of see that it's a little bit raised up from that, but it's very, very nice. Signed crown, of course, you guys can see that now. And that crown is actually at the 4 o'clock for this, right? So again, we're seeing those inspirations from the brand owner, from Seiko's. Of course, we see the whole outlay of it being an inspiration from Seiko and everything else of the like. Let me catch up on chat before it gets away from me. Um, Enjoy the Zelos. Thank you, sir. Logo is better. Okay, so you like the logo, JC. And I know you're speaking from experience because I watch your watch rolls in Watch Crunch now that they have actual videos that you can put short clips for. So you are a person that speaks from experience. That actually is a fair price considering the meteorite dial. Yes, and also now that we covered the fact that there's a Miyota 9015 on there, that also is leaning towards that value. And there's more to it too, because we didn't even get to the bracelet yet. Um, but we also have those improvements that they did without raising the price. So that's a very, very fair price. In fact, we know that they could charge hundreds of dollars more comparably to some brands. And I don't want to mention who because that's not important, but super fair price, especially if you're new to watch collecting and you're looking for value and you have that apprehensive of like, where should I go? What should I buy? If you get something like this, man, 300 meters of water resistance, remember, right? So Miyota 9015, we have the meteorite dial. So I agree with you with that fair price. I think it's extremely fair, to be honest with you, with everything being said. And then like I said, we'll get into the bracelet. The Mako is a keeper. Yes, yes, absolutely a keeper. This is not going anywhere. This is with me. This is my Zelos jersey, and I wear it proudly. They went to female end links. They did. Better when it was male end links. You know, JC, I guess that depends on whose wrist we're talking about at the end of the day. I don't mind female end links. I'm curious to know what makes you say that. But again, you have more experience than I do, so I'm not challenging you. We're just having an intelligent conversation. Look better. Okay, you're answering it. Look better with no gaps at the meeting points. Okay, I got you. Fair enough. It's bright. Gotcha. Gotcha. Let me show the watch. G-Shocks, welcome in. Lone Ranger, Skylar, yes, yes, I'm here. Hey, Daniel, what's going on? Hey, legend, yes, sir. Grizzhead is here. What's going on, brother, man? I appreciate you. I appreciate the support. Skylar, are we going to the district time? So Lone Ranger, I don't know if wifey is listening. I was actually going to ask her if she would be interested to taking a ride with me down to DC for the weekend to see if we can stay overnight. And we have Markwell. We have a bunch of brands that I recognize going down there, and I would love to meet. I think Vario's going to be there. I hope the owner is there. Long Island Watch, Christopher Ward, of course. Christopher Ward goes to everything. It's a beautiful thing. Jack Mason, I think, is going to be there. There's going to be a lot of great brands at District Time in DC, and I would be interested in going, except I have to have a conversation with wifey and see if she would like to co-pilot that because it is a bit of a drive for me at the end of the day. So, what else do we have for this new release for Zelos? A ceramic and brushed finish for the bezel. I know that's hard for you guys to make out. You guys are probably familiar with that kind of design. You kind of see it on camera here. So we have a nice brush, which is good because it leans into that toolish kind of look. And I believe also, I don't know if it's this one, I don't think it is, but I think they are also doing sapphire within their bezels as well. That's something I believe is also new. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have BGW9, Loom, and C3. I have to double check that one with you guys for sure. But anyway, let's get into opening this up and take a look at the bracelet because that's also important. Very nice case back. I don't know if I can get, yeah, you could see the Mako shark on there. So that's on theme. That makes sense. And it looks like it's bead blasted and then brushed. It's really, okay, so this is engraved really well. Like it's raised off of the back. Of course, screw down case back. Very nicely done. Very nicely done for that Mako shark. So I love the fact that they did the Mako shark. They did also put some specifications on the back of the case as well. I can't make them out just yet, but it's bare with otherwise, right? It's just that shark is there. You see it. Very nicely done. Um, quick release, right? We have quick release on the bracelet itself. So we have that female end link. We have the quick release. Now, when you do that, sometimes it interferes from closing all the way, and it doesn't seem to have that issue here. But quick release is a thing, man. And let me explain something to you guys for specifications on watches and something that I feel. Quick release and a quick adjustment at the actual, clasp here is very important, I think, at this point. I think if you're a micro brand, you should look heavily into slipping over to that. Of course, we have milled scissors here uh, for the bridge, if you will, for the clasp, and push deployment. Those things are very nice to have. We don't have any tooled um, lug holes over here, so that's fine. It's a little redundant, but it's not, because when you switch to a strap that doesn't have a quick release, it can be utilized for that function. But that's also a design choice, right? Putting drilled lugs is a design choice. From what my understanding in talking to brand owners, that doesn't cost, if not anything at all. But they make that decision upon making their watches, and it can distort the continuous factor for the sides here. So it's really up to the brand at that point. Um, what's good, everybody? Ben 10 is in the Ben. You missed it from the beginning. So my goal for this live, and I want you to keep me accountable, is to make sure that I get every comment and respond to it. I realized watching the last live that I even missed my own brother coming in saying hi. So I'm making sure that I try to get every single one of you this time around. And you could tell my demeanor is a little bit more calm today for that reason. I love the case back. I love it too. I think it's fantastic. I think they did a great job, and they kept it kind of solo with that Mako shark. A little bit of specifications, I'm sure that that's what it is around the sides of it, but it let it breathe. It almost gives you that visualization of watching National Geographics and watching the shark go through the water. It's usually solo and all the fish are away from it. Um, the black tip it has drilled lug holes. Okay, so I'm guessing, JC, that that's another watch that they produced where they did drilled lugs on it. You're doing a great job. Thank you, brother. That's what it's all about. It's all about improving. And if not for your feedback, which I'm so happy, because I know you could kind of feel a type of way like, oh, do I really want to say this to him right now? But I receive feedback very well. I have my moderators here for people who are not trying to do the right thing. So I love the fact that you gave me that feedback for sure. Yes, that is a different model that has drilled lugs. Fantastic. I mean, what would my vote be on that? I would say, you know what? It doesn't matter to me. We're splitting hairs, because at this point, everybody watching this knows how to use a tool. Is it nice to have drilled lugs? It makes it a little bit better, but is it super necessary? No, I don't think we penalize them for that. And we have an H-link style bracelet. I don't know if this has a taper. By eye judging, I don't think it does. I may be wrong. But it looks fantastic. It looks to articulate. Of course, it's covered in plastic, but we'll discover this on the deep dive review, of course. And I just want to make sure that I covered everything. Okay, so I know what I want to talk about. So yeah, the bracelet is, at this point, when it comes to micro brands and our expectations, I think that the bracelet has to be heavily focused on. And you don't have to jump to the quick release. You don't have to jump to the diver extension. I understand that these things cost money and they have to factor it in. And that's important, because here's the deal. When a micro brand first comes out and we have something like this, right? We have a Noctua watch. And I think that he gave us something nice with the bracelet on this, because he bead blasted everything and he kept it very toolish. Now, we don't have a quick system adjustment here, and I don't think, yeah, we don't have quick release here. But this brand just started off, right? You need the funds to make a sizable purchase order for a bracelet of that caliber, where it doesn't affect your overline cost for your watches. You don't want to price yourself out of the market. So that is rather important. And I can give a lot of slack for the companies that are just beginning for not having that. So it's all relative. It's all how you're gauging it. But keep in mind that those things play a key role, and we have to kind of give companies a grace period to get on their feet and do these fantastic things. like Zelos being here for 11 years and really solidifying their love, giving the love back by valuing their watches and not charging them as astronomical, even though they sell out in every release, knowing that most people that are Zelos fans are probably going to pay a higher price if they put it at that, but they didn't go that route. So a lot of flowers for that. I want to make sure I spend some time focusing on that. Let me see if I need to catch up on chat. Um, I'm doing a great job. Ben 10, you're the man. My man, Riskful Ignorance is in the building. He is in the building. He's actually working on a Mark Well video as well. He's put out a couple of things about it, but he's also doing a deep dive. So I would love to see his take on it. If you guys aren't following Riskful Ignorance, he's in the chat, has a fantastic channel, and he's covering some watches likewise. So feel free to swing over there. Swag on 100, Skylar. You know, just trying to do me, boo boo. Yeah. I'm not that guy, so I gotta even laugh when I pretend like I'm like cocky. I'm not cocky, guys. I'm just an enthusiast, man. I'm just like you guys. The difference is I pressed record. So, AR coding is to be expected on here. I don't think that I mentioned anything on the AR coding. It has to have it. I would be super shocked, but I can tell you what, we're in a lot of light directly, and it's doing very, very well. You're seeing the shine come off of the bezel, but no distortion to the dial itself. The applied indices, of course, I don't have a jeweler's loop, but what I'm also noticing is the chapter ring on this is very thin. It has a small profile to it. I do like that, right? The applied indices are being raised very nicely off the dial, giving you the depth not only from that, but from the also the logo as well. The D-wheel aperture is nicely shaped. We've probably seen this shape, but it's nice to step away from that regular rectangular square. So it has like a nice little TP, giving you that feel of an indice shape, um, and executed very, very well. Now, this is a black date wheel, so they could have gone gray and matched it. They didn't. However, when it comes to something and it comes to a colorway like this, I don't think it's absolutely necessary for you to match the dial. Let me know what you guys think. Would you have been happier if this date wheel was color matched, if it had a gray tone to it? They did do that on other models to match it, not every time. And I know that that's a thing, but it's not always necessary as long as it's not an eyesore. Thankfully, they didn't do white, right? That would have been a different conversation that we're having here. The meteorite obviously has that gray, and oftentimes in playing with the light, you can see some dark like lines that are contrasting the dial, if you will. So pulling that from that date wheel aperture is fine in my accord. And I think that they gradually, put out the characteristics of it just well. So your microphone is static sounding. Oh boy. So let me see if I can adjust that. Hang on one second. Maybe the mic is too close to me. Let's do this. Let me know if the sound improved from me just moving it around, and I also wiggled the little thing here. Struggles of going live, man. This is, I can't press pause and fix those things, unfortunately. I think I might have to graduate to a different mic at this point. I did notice I was having a little bit of issues with the sound as is, so we might be upgrading the mic. Let me know if it sounds a little better. All right, you fixed the sound, it seems. Okay, so I was probably just, my mouth was too close to the mic. Oakley, Oakley is nice, buddy. Okay. The great, I'm not sure what reference that is, brother. I apologize. The Great White is the big brother of the Mako. Yeah, so JC, I'm really excited to dive deeper into the Zelos collection to see and make those comparisons, right? It is a little lost on me how they're transitioning from different models to models. They all look fantastic. They all have substantial quality. And again, they're going from a 400 and change dollar range, and then they're going up to 1,500, sometimes 2,500. So executed well, limited releases for most of their watches, and people are buying those watches and they are selling out. So I would expect that no matter what category we're talking about for their releases, I think that they make fantastic watches throughout, and they don't sacrifice quality when they go to their, and I'm not saying entry level, but I am saying a better price point for their step-in model. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, JC, I believe that this is their first model of like starting off at that price point. So Gray would hinder the legibility for sure. You know what, Wristful, I suspected that. And so it's easy to say match the date wheel, match the date wheel, match the date wheel. However, when the legibility is lost, it loses its whole purpose, right? So I do believe that that's the reason why they kept it to that kind of black tone to make it easier to read. So I do agree with you on that for sure. Aesthetic color matching would be great so long as it's not white is cool. Yeah, yeah. I think white is more of an eyesore. It's just like you focus too much on that, right? So it's important for you to pick a color that complements the dial, at least in that aspect, while still having that kind of legibility. Sounds better. Good. I fixed the sound. Great, 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 great. Awesome. JC Watch, I'm a nerd. Yeah, dude, listen, we all are here, right? Well, I often talk about how a watch enthusiast it can be different from a watch collector in that when you're a watch enthusiast, you care about the minutia of the details or the specifications into a watch rather than just the overall branding or the overall aspect to the watches itself. So that is a thing. And listen, if you collect watches and you don't know what movement it's in it, but you're at these watch shows or you're on the forums, I'm going to treat you just the same. However, I think that there is a thing where somebody can own 15, 20 watches, but still not be as an enthusiastic or care so much about their deep dive knowledge about the watch in general, if you will. So that's my take on it, and that's just my opinion. JC nerds of a feather. Yeah, yeah, exactly. We all are, dude. We all are. You guys are watching a random guy here on YouTube, so I know you guys have an interest in the watches and find value from the content, and I appreciate you guys. No, their previous Makos were priced the same. Yes. So that was JC. That was a big focus for this conversation and something that I wanted to highlight for that brand, right? They did the improvements. They're giving us materials that they have used in the past. But the fact that they did those improvements by listening to enthusiast feedback, which they're heavily focused on, and again, that also ties into what I mentioned before in the beginning, where the brand wants to keep sole control of the company so that when they have to make those decisions, you don't have a partner saying, no, we need to make more money, right? You kind of butt heads when it comes to that. So it is important for you to have that full control and everything else. Like, Pops, can you just lower that a little bit so the ticking goes away? So, however, older models cost more as Swiss movements were used. Yeah. So listen, if you're putting a Swiss movement, right, instead of let's say a Japanese movement, whether it be Seiko, whether it be Miyota, of course you're going to expect an increase in price. And normally what most brands will do is they'll give you more than just that movement, right? They'll give you something else inside of that watch, specification wise or details within it, where they can justify a higher cost. Because if you're going to go higher and you're going to use a Swiss movement, let's say, it bodes well for you to add other things that people are going to be interested in, right? Because at that point, for a Swiss movement, people are willing to pay more money for that, right? So you might as well also give them maybe a tighter regulation in the movement, maybe give them something like loom blocks, right? Of course, at that price point, you're not going to put a Swiss movement in a watch and have a bullshit bracelet, right? You're going to have an actual great bracelet as well. So all of those things tie in, and it makes sense at that price point when you wrap everything together. So, right on, Simon. JC, the benefits of 4 hertz Miyota movements with longer. Yeah. So that's where Miyota really capitalized in their movements in general. That's a good segue for me because I actually have with me some Seikos and I have a San Martin with me as well. So I want to show you guys and show the comparison tying into the things we talked about before with Seiko and everything else. But the fact is that when you use a Miyota movement, whether it be a 9015 or a 9039 for the no date, you're getting the 4 hertz, right? And as you collect, you have a lot more availability when it comes to NH movements, right? No matter what it is. Unfortunately, none of the NH line gives you that higher beat. So when you're looking for something that gives you a different feel for your collection, and or we also know that the NH movement for their GMT is a collar GMT. Nothing wrong with it. Fantastic. Great price point. And I was actually doing comparisons for the price point of the Zelos, all of the specifications that you get compared to Seiko watches, because I often talk about how Seiko is not an enthusiast brand. I'm not saying that they are not getting traction from enthusiasts. What I'm saying is that they are more worried about selling their watches to everybody versus somebody like Zelos who gets their bread and butter from enthusiasts. So you see the comparison to what you're going to get on a watch from that caliber. And I actually have a Seiko here. Now, to be fair, this is an older, much older watch, right? This is the 009 J1. We know that there has been improvements to the movement for Seiko for their Seiko 5, but one thing that you always get, and with their 5 from this collection, you're getting a reduction in the water resistance. You're also getting, you're not getting a screw down crown, which isn't detrimental, right? Just because a crown doesn't screw down doesn't mean that it's not water resistant. But we did see a reduction in water resistance regardless when they did the Seiko 5. And another thing that we see, because I was looking at the Prospex models, they don't always come with a bracelet. And if they do, the bracelet is stamped. That's fine. That's a first world problem, right? But milled gives you a little bit of a better feel. It gives you more of the solid feel. And then even when you get a Seiko bracelet, you're not getting the quick release. You're not getting the diver extension. And all of those things tie into the cost that they decide to put their watches at. And so you being an enthusiast like me, you're going to want those factors in the watches. You're going to want it to come with the watch. And unfortunately, even in a Prospex lineup, where oftentimes too, because I was looking at the Seiko Turtle, right? So the Seiko Turtle still has 21,600 beats, yeah? So that plus the bracelet not being there and everything else to compare, versus if I'm talking to an enthusiast that says, hey, what's a great watch for value? That Seiko watch is going to probably run you more money, if not similar, but it's going to have a lot less specifications. They're going to be a lot less risk heavy, right? They're going to stay with things that have worked with them, unlike Zelos using meteorite and using different colorways, using different materials. So it's definitely warranted to say that going with a Zelos or going with any micro brand for that matter that pays attention to those details that we're looking for is probably a better conversation to have when somebody's looking to get the best bang for their buck, to be fair. Let me catch up on chat. JP, my guy, yes, sir. Wait, did I miss? Oh, Noctua Watches is in the building. JP, the owner of this watch himself, is in here. I showed this watch. It was actually on my wrist. It's part of the conversation that we're having. Fantastic guy. Noctua Watches is a fantastic brand as is. And yes, just to answer your question, I'm 1000% biased because we're friends. So do your own homework and see if the watch works for you. But I'm always going to say good things about it, even though it's always going to be truthful as well. You're wearing a Longines Spirit. Fantastic watch. That's a price point. Longines offers a price point where you can step into that Swiss made, like true Swiss made, if you're looking for a luxury brand, and it's not going to hit you over the head, right? I have my reserves for the other brands for luxury, and I kind of relate to what you can get out of these micro brands to also scratch that itch without breaking the bank. However, one thing you can't replace is the history and the horological significance for those brands in the game, right? So owning a Longines, owning a Tissot, all of those more of a attainable kind of segue. And again, look, the Longines Spirit cost over $1,000, I'm sure. So, you know, it's all relative to what I'm talking about, of course, because you guys know the scale of what they can cost. But at the end of the day, true Swiss made, if you have a lot of reserve into her horological history for a brand, fantastic watch. So thank you for sharing that you had that on wrist. Honestly, a high price movement with a half build doesn't make sense. Not talking about Zelos, just in general. I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that especially if you're in the space of micro brands and your bread and butter are enthusiasts, you have to have a build that makes sense. Like you have to, no matter what movement you take, you have to build around it. And the higher caliber you go for the movement has to make sense for the watch that you put surrounding it. So if you're not ready to take that step and do that leap, it's kind of half baked if you just slap something in there and then build, you know, all those other specifications that we're going to be privy to, and you're going to kind of miss the mark, especially when a lot of brands are already capitalizing on that from conception, especially when you have a brand that's doing it for 11 years. And I didn't talk about the clasp engraving, and this is done very nice. I'm going to take the plastic off here. I will catch up on chat afterwards, but I am going to take this off and I'm going to show you guys. Now, this clasp is clutch. Very, very nice. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I think on some of their models on the clasp, this is actually an active button. I may be wrong on that, and I think that that activates the diver extension. Nevertheless, still a very nice engraving, very predominant when it comes out of the clasp itself. You guys can see it's almost raised with that Zelos logo. That is parallel to the logo you're getting for the dial. So done absolutely well. It's my suspicion that this is also, yeah, so we also have a brushed clasp. We have bead blasting in the middle to emphasize the logo, which is always the right thing in my opinion, because that really makes it pop. But it's also brushed, and you know, we're nitpicking here, but I really believe that the clasp, that being the highest point of contact when you're wearing a watch, is going to receive the most scratches when you have your wrist on a desk or you're working on a computer, whatever it is. That's going to have and receive a lot of scratches and everything else. So it's very nice that they brushed it. I think they also brushed the rest of the bracelet, which makes a lot of sense because at the end of the day, this is a tool watch, right? Very, very noticeable by the 300 meters of water resistance and the bezel that's slapped on here. It's a diver, it's a tool watch, right? So it has to be on theme. Doesn't have to be, but it makes sense to be on theme to have those brushings. And I think that with them reserving back on too much polishing, and I think the entire thing here is brushed. Maybe the sides have a chamfer that has polishing. We are getting, I believe, screwed in links. So very, very nice, right? Top quality when it comes to bracelet. I'm curious to see how this is going to fit on wrist. JC mentioned that there is a gap, and I think that this is what he's talking about when it articulates. Again, we're of course talking about super nerdy things here, right? These are things that people are not even going to notice at the end of the day. But it is a thing, and you make a valid point, my friend. But I think that the goal here was to get a 40 millimeter where somebody would have been more afraid to get that lug to lug, because if it was a male end link to it, it would of course add to that lug to lug, as you know. I think the goal here was just to be able to get this on wrist for a couple of other people, and we'll see. We'll see, because I do see when this link articulates here, it does cover it up a little bit more. But when I get this on wrist, when I have this sized, we'll do a deep dive, of course. And then we have the push deployment here. Now, again, just to get into the nitty gritty, what is nice, and something that I noticed with Notice, their clasp is proprietary, right? So it's the No Dex clasp, and they have their buttons rescinded into the clasp itself. So most of the time, when you have a clasp like this and it's push deployment, it's going to be sticking out. Now, I've never had a clasp undo itself. I don't think it even does that if you only press one side, like the side that's closer to your wrist that twists in. So it's not really like an issue, more so than aesthetic value, right? But again, that's nitpicking, and I have zero problems with the buttons being on the outside. But let me catch up on chat before it gets away from me altogether. Sad. You're sad you sold your Zelos. Ooh, Horizons 43 with the carbon dial. Ah, yeah. So thank you for saying that, JP, because that also is a thing. We talked about how the releases are limited. Therefore, the demand is also higher for these watches because of that. And you'll often find people reselling their watches on eBay when it comes to Zelos. Now, here's what I would recommend for that. And this is actually part of something I didn't cover yet. There are Facebook groups specifically that Zelos interacts with as well, where a lot of people who own that kind of watch will do trades for them as well. So you might be able to get an even trade, or you might be able to get something reasonable, them knowing that, hey, you're a Zelos fan and they want to look out for you. But unfortunately, it leaves the brand inevitably susceptible to third-party sells. And of course, we're going to see a markup on that because of that demand that we talked about. So that is a thing. It's a double-edged sword, if you will. I'm sure that that also hurts the brand as well, right? Because when you're not buying from them, they're no longer making the money, even though they made it initially. However, you know, if they're purchasing it from somebody who's never purchased from Zelos before, they're not gaining that direct customer. So, you know, take that, you know, take from that what you will. But listen, that just comes with the territory when you do things that are a little bit more exclusive on your releases, which again, I ultimately like, right? Because they turn that wheel quite often. And they reuse materials where maybe JP, you'll see a new iteration of that watch come out where it may not be the exact line, but it will be something very similar in nature where you'll be happy with putting that into your collection. So heed caution when getting rid of a Zelos. Wearing my square because I haven't reset my dates. Yeah, dude, I just set the time to, I don't even think that's the right time. So yeah, all my watches right now are on the wrong time, including, anyway, so I want to show you guys comparisons that would be equal to or thought of. Again, this is an old Seiko, right? This is the 009. However, even if you're looking at the Seiko 5, comparable to getting a Zelos, I think that that's probably a better move if you're an enthusiast and you value the things that they have to offer to give to you. No shade on Seiko, no shade on Citizen, of course. Buy what you love. I'm only giving you the facts of what would actually be a comparison tit for tat. So, and listen, at the end of the day, I'm even going to put a Seiko turtle because I had the, as you guys know, I had the homage of the turtle from Tandorio. So I'm definitely interested in putting one of those in my collection. But again, I realize that I'm not going to get the bracelet and I'm not going to get some of those specifications. But I love Seiko still, right? I love Seiko still, and people will love Seiko regardless. And that's likewise with Citizen, and it's for a good reason, you know. I have two LTD Seiko 5s and a Prospex Alpinist. Nice. On two gone on Tone Angus J from Strap Club. Nice, man. Nice. Yeah, say, listen, I've talked about where they went with Seiko 5, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. And I just told you that I'm going to be a purchaser of Seiko even still moving forward. They're a fantastic brand. And I wouldn't be the enthusiast that I am with modding, right? Because of if Seiko didn't exist and they didn't do the fantastic things that they do with their manufacturing of movements. So I always have to give Seiko their flowers. Listen, I'm always going to bring up a plus when I talk about something that could possibly be a positive otherwise, because there's it's not cut and dry, right? It's not cut and dry. And I don't want to talk anybody out of a Seiko purchase. I don't want to talk anybody out of a Miyota purchase. My goal is to just give you all the knowledge, and then hopefully you do your own research and you see what works for you better, because ultimately you're wearing the watch. So don't let me sway you either way, if you will. I love vintage Longines flagship. Yeah, man, vintage watches is a category that I haven't danced with because I understand that that's a different level of knowledge, but I am in love with vintage designs. And the way I like to cut my slice out of that pie is I like to get brands that have a vintage look, right? They give you that vintage feel, but the insides are all modern technology. And next week, we're going to be taking a look at a brand that does it at a high caliber. E. Stolman, my man Eugene out in Maryland, I actually have his watch already, and that's going to be next week's unboxing and next week's conversation. And I'm super excited to do a deep dive into that watch because it gives me that vintage feel. And he makes watches at a very small batch rate, right? He's one of those guys, unlike, let's say, Laurier or Baltic. No shade, love those brands, love to do something with them. But he does it where he wants to make a small batch. He's focused on making the best watch that he can, and it's at a higher price. But hopefully, with what we uncover with that next week, we could find justification in it. And I can tell you something right now. I've been to the Philly show where I met Stolman, Eugene, and he's actually a watchmaker, just so you know the background behind it. He actually builds the watches himself, and he's not just some random solo fly-by-night guy. He has a lot of experience in the game, to the effect where Maryland, where he also tag teams with, does a lot of the service calls for other micro brands, right? A lot of micro brands utilize him. I'm aware of Mark Time being one of the people that utilizes him. So I'm really excited to uncover that for next week. Have you seen the new Spearfish skeletonized with the Marvin 700 movement? Are we talking about, wow, horological history? Elson brought an old new stock. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier, dude. That watch is, dude. This is why I love micro brands. When they do something like that, they buy a batch. So what JC Watch is talking about bringing back the 700 movement, they bought a batch of movements. Yeah, I believe this was a Swiss-made movement. And he went into that movement. Of course, he did, I'm sure, a service to all of them, calibrated them to the necessary specifications that they wanted. But he also designed it to be skeletonized where I believe that was meant to be a pilot watch, if you will, which is crazy, right? You're not going to see, conventionally speaking, pilot watches are very easy reads. Yeah. The whole purpose of them is to be the tool and also to be a very easy read when you're looking at a pilot's watch. But they skeletonized it. They took an old Swiss movement. They put fantastic things within the watch. I did see that. And that was at a higher price point, right? We talked about the range that Zelos is going to offer and also the caliber to which they're going to dive into their watches to give you. But a very exciting story, a very exciting watch in itself because of how he tied that all together. And I think that they're sold out. So let that speak for itself. Elson is the GOAT. Yeah, he's really, really, like, from afar, bird's eye view, helicopter, if you will. I've never met him in person. He responded to me instantly and he told me that he's actually working on this release. So he wanted me to rush this on camera. This is why, I mean, it worked perfectly because I do these unboxings live anyway. The review is going to take more time because I have to do, you know, all my B-roll, all the fancy stuff, all the this and that. But I still am able to come up on here and introduce this before it's actually released for Zelos. And more importantly, I'm able to have the first impression conversation with you guys. So he is doing some fantastic things. I have been a fan of Zelos way before doing this with them. And in fact, I did plan to put a watch in my collection. I'm extremely grateful that they found it in benefit enough for themselves to do a collaboration here with the channel. I'm actually not sending this watch back, to be fair. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. I'm trying to present to you what I have tangibly, and I want you guys to make your decisions responsibly. Fair enough? So let's scroll up. You're right, Sky. Thank you. I saw your video on that recent too, JC. Yes, whose video? Nodex class. Oh, did I fall behind? I fell behind. I do apologize. But the goal was to get every piece of chat in here. If I did miss something, say, hey, Skylar, you missed this, and then re-put it in. This way I know that I missed something. Scalpers suck. They do. Hey, but, you know, you have to take the double-edged sword, how it is, you know? When you mess around with a limited watch that is in high demand, it's inevitable. But yeah, scalpers ruin it for us all. But again, there is a Facebook group for Zelos. I'm sure, and I know, and I don't have facts about this, but I'm sure the brand owner, he probably couldn't make you the watch after. That defeats the purpose, right? But I'm sure he'll be excited to welcome you into that Facebook group and maybe put you in touch with somebody who has a watch that you're particularly interested in. Hopefully it's not somebody just trying to make a quick buck. I've been loving the leather straps lately, but yeah, I've been loving actually bracelets, but then again, Vario sent me bun straps, and I didn't realize how much I like bun straps until I messed around with them. And then, of course, he has other leather straps and every other kind of strap of the like. So I've actually been heavily enjoying my straps this year. This year, 2025, is the year of the strap. I really forced myself to enjoy what's already in my collection. I thought that was important once I got to a certain number that I have on there. And you guys know that the best way to do that is through straps. And then you can mess around with a whole bunch of different companies to see what you like. I've done collaborations with a few of them. Speaking of which, we have this strap here that is from Montrose Strap. And this is a newer edition, which is their Epson leather, which is fantastic quality. And the hardest thing for them was to match that soft and supple strap to the FKM straps that they had. So I was a little nervous when they said that they were doing leather, only because my impressions of Montrose Strap was having a supple strap in general with the FKM, but with this Epson leather, home run. Quality is there. I have it on this San Martin NH movement. I wanted to tie this into the conversation as well because this is a skin diver, San Martin. Now, I consider them to be a micro brand at this point. I know some people would disagree, and I would completely understand you disagreeing. But when a brand starts to move just like a micro brand, when they start to give us that certain quality, when they start to include quick release and they start to include things at the bracelet for the diver extension, then it becomes very difficult and the lines become very blurred to what we can consider to be a micro brand at that point. And I think we've seen that with Chris Ward. It's very difficult to have the words micro brand come out of your mouth, right? Because we see them elevate and we see them innovate or add things to their watches that raise them in class, at least in the aspect of an enthusiast. So this is my San Martin diver. Again, I have it on the Montrose strap. Super well quality. I've done a full review of this if you guys are interested. I've also been playing with straps as well, Ben 10, so I can relate. And 2025 is going to be the year of the strap, and I'm still working on getting a system for organizing all my straps. I got a lot of crappy straps as well. You know what happens. You start purchasing and you get affordable stuff and whatever the case may be. So I'm going to be looking for, I think, like a folder for that. And we'll give a lot of appreciation. Now, okay, listen, I'm just a regular guy. I told you that I'm not really purchasing watches, but I do have collaborations. I don't have to send this back. So it's fair to say that it's a lot easier for me to not be tempted. But even if I wasn't keeping the watches, I would still be on that same mode because I don't limit my connections with brands by saying you have to give me the watch. What's important for me is to build a relationship with them so I have access to the watches to do these things with you guys. So it's up to them if they want me to keep it. Sometimes it's easier for them to ship a watch from Singapore and not have it sent back. And like, what's the point? Because they have to do the tariffs or whatever cost it is coming back. And of course, they're not perfect. So let's move on. I went to Tennessee and I wear a leather strap. Tennessee is warm, yes? Tennessee's hot. Glad I did because okay, the bracelet could, it could have not been fun. Yeah. So it does matter what the temperatures are, whether we're talking about hotter or colder, you do have to mind that. What is nice is when you get a watch that has a diver's extension on it, when you have that thermal expansion of your wrist, you can adjust. Likewise, if you go into the cold and it gets, a little looser around your wrist, you're able to also make that adjustment. So when it comes to bracelets, that's why I'm so heavily focused on having that attribute. Now, having something that is a tooled kind of adjustment, no big deal. We're watch nerds, so we probably keep tools on us in the car like I do. So we can still do that. But again, it's going towards that luxury aspect, right? Having that on the hand, on the fly, whatever the case may be. I love my Seikos. I love my Seikos too, bro. I super value this cult following Seiko 009. I'm really happy that I was able to grab this before it was off the market permanently and the price raises go crazy with it too. And I changed the bezel insert, I did. I wanted to keep the manufactured bezel factory. I wanted to keep it in good condition, even though it looks magnificent. I'm sure you agree, the 009, when it's faded, ooh, it has that, it is vintage at this point, right? This watch is, I think, 30 years old. But I love my Seikos, for sure. Try FKM straps, yeah. Definitely give FKM straps a shot. If you are interested in an FKM strap, Montrose has to be my recommendation. Not just because of the quality of product, but because of the quality of owner. Fantastic guy. He's really looking to connect with people on a level of having communication and everything else of the like. And they have nice packaging, even though some people have a problem with the packaging. JP. But hey, you have to do your own homework and see what works for you. My recommendation is Montrose straps for FKM. Or if you're looking for a plethora, right, of size options, or something like a bunch strap, Vario. Vario is fantastic. They started off as a strap brand. Now they're also a micro brand of watches, but I've had several, I purchased those straps myself. Here's a Vario strap. Just luck. This conversation just went through here, and I don't know why I even have my F91W. But I put that on a Vario leather strap and it has quick release. It's leather. So I did something like this to the watch, and I think it really elevates that classic legendary F91W. Of course, I've done modifications inside the actual polarized film, which is why it's negative blue. But they have straps to fit common watches like this. They also fit for the Royale. They have nice leather straps for that. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with straps. I'm gonna do more connections with brands to introduce them, also to familiarize myself and to educate myself to have better comparisons. But so far, they've been home runs to the collaborations that I've done, and this is super supple. I mean, I know some people don't like me saying supple, but look at that bezel insert too. You see that turquoise blue to the turquoise band? I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna buy a new Mako Meteorite or a Falcon Eye. Nice, man. Let me know, dude. Seriously, send me a message the second you do. I would love to see that watch on your wrist. Now I saw the watch brand. I gotta catch up on chat. Now I saw a watch brand that is doing Meteorite dial, but different colorways. Yeah, and I saw Zelos also had like a blue Meteorite. You can add color to it. This is actually, I believe, the way it comes factory, if you will. um, this is the way it looks regular, but they can put a blue tinge to it. I think they could pretty much, I don't know, I'm not a watchmaker, but I think that they could put any color they want to that Meteorite, but it gives that fantastic texture. It gives you that natural stone, earthy type of feel. Of course, it then makes it very unique to in its own like. It's harder to work with. So there's a lot of different ways that you can appreciate having that. Now I saw a different Meteorite code. Don't recall the name of the brand. Eugene Runs Maryland Watchworks. Yes. Which builds and regulates a bunch of microbrands. Exactly. Wow. Am I that far behind? Let me catch up on chat. Quartz Movements killed the Marvin 700. Wow. So that's extra special to own that watch, because at that point in a movement level, you're owning a piece of history, the Quartz Crisis, right? That's insane. And I really loved that iteration that they did for that Pilot watch. I love how it goes against the rules, right? Like a Pilot watch is supposed to be, like I said, very easy to read, and them doing it skeletonized, but I feel like it's still able to be read very easily, in my opinion, and everything else. So it's a Swiss movement created in the 50s. Noctua Meteorite. So I might buy a Vario strap at the show next weekend. Yeah, man, if you buy, so you're going to DC Time, I presume. If you do, say hello to my man Ivan over there, and if his wife is with him, Judy, send my love to Vario, man. I really wish I could have met him in person. He had representation in the Philly Watch Show in 2024 for their first time. They're actually doing that watch show again if you guys are in the Philadelphia area. And I presume that the same heads are going to be there, but keep a lookout for that as well if you're looking. I may try to make DC Times, but I got to talk to the boss first. Love Montrose in the Italian line. Yeah, me too. Montrose, the only thing with Montrose is he needs to expand a little bit more to different sizes. I think he needs to get the 18 in there. He's got to get the 24. But again, easy for me to say. I don't know where they are as far as a brand in solidifying that kind of range, but what he has now is fantastic. And again, I like to keep all the things that are sponsored. Now, San Martin I purchased. This was not a sponsor, but the strap was sent to me. And this is what I do, man. I just don't kick them away. I incorporate them from live to live into this conversation and everything else. So I love doing this. I love the FKM or leather. Yeah, so the leather on their wristful is actually Epson leather, which gives it that kind of texture. But the quality that he used is fantastic. It's still very supple. Supple, supple. Supple, and I like to say articulates when it comes to bracelets. What are you going to do? JP shots fired. I have some FKM straps for you to review, Sky. Fire, bro. Send them my way. Send them over here, boy. Unless they're trying to like charge you $200 for shipping, man. That's crazy, dude. I will definitely take a look at any FKM. I know you're associated with certain companies for the straps. I appreciate you, bro. This is what it's all about. I feel really blessed to have your guys' support and to have and be able to make these connections. Just something simple like this, as you guys can see on the live. My man JP noticed that he could send some my way, and this is what it's all about: getting it out there. We'll show and tell. We'll show and tell when I get it. Please, yes, please do. Tag me. You know what to do on Watch Crunch at. Well, I used to be Mr. Santana, Skylar Santana. Yes, they're color meteorite PVC coated. Okay, it's a PVC coating. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, the red one, the blood moon. Yeah, fire, 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 fire. And listen, uh, I wanted meteorite in my collection, right? I had the pick of the lot for this release for Zelos, but I purposely went with the meteorite because I don't have that in my collection yet. So I'm super excited to be part of the team and have this timepiece, man. And I'll tell you guys right now, the running seconds, I don't know if it'll come up, but fantastic design, man. I have to give my man credit for his design languages and being able to keep up with, I don't know how he does it, right? Like if he is designing this all himself, man, he must be pen to pad 24/7. And it's really impressive that he's able to keep up for 11 years now with new designs and for the most part selling out of each one that he does. I don't know how he does it, man. That's super fantastic. Where some people even struggle from year to year coming out with stuff. Here he is. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, JC. I'm glad you're in the chat because you're a pro. I think he comes out with a new release every month. Is it that frequent or is it longer than that? But even if it's 2 months at a time at a clip, it's still a fantastic rate to be able to keep up with those designs and those feeding the beast, right? That's one of the things. If you don't make a watch, if they didn't make 10,000 units of this, right? Which is also nice because me having this on wrist, I know that there's only a limited amount of people out there that are gonna have it on wrist. So I love this watch already. But the quality is there. Um, but the fact that they don't make so many runs and it gives you that kind of exclusivity feel is very nice. But you have to feed that beast, right? You have to keep up with that demand. I think I'm almost catching up on chat as well. DC is going to be a good time. Yeah, Lone Ranger. I presume that you're gonna go. What's his name? John Lilly. He actually sent me a message, man, and we were going back and forth. He's actually cooking up something new. I can't talk about it, but I can tell you that if you guys liked the Mark Well watch that I showed, he's working on something on the back end. He's probably going to release that. Make your way over to the table, Lone Ranger, or for anybody else that's going to DC time, make your way over to Mark Well because he may be showcasing what he has in the barrel. And it's worth it. That's all I could say. I want to tell you so bad, but I'd be a bad boy if I did. It's definitely worth it, and he's a fantastic guy, and he just wants to meet me in person. So he said, you should really try to get yourself down to DC time. So I might try to do that, but there's no promises on that. I have to again ask the boss. Other brands are going to be there. I already talked about that. So let me catch up on chat. Moving to a new building this year. It's bigger every year, dude. And that is what we're seeing in the micro brand space. Even with New York. New York is growing. Bro, I was on that line in 24 for the New York Wind-Up Fair. And when I tell you that cars in Manhattan were stopping and rolling down their window and saying, what is this for? Are they giving something away for free? And we were like, watches. And it's a fantastic time to be a collector. We are living through history. And I think the longer you stick with micro brands, take your pick of the lot because there were 100 and whatever brands at New York. They're going to get their history. They're going to get their horological significance if they haven't already. And I don't think it's going to take a tremendous amount of time. I think we're going to, like we see with technology, scale very quickly. I mean, you already have Chinese brands like San Martin, who, by the way, now has entered into our space as Zhenghong as an official micro brand, making fantastic watches. And you get everything from an NH movement all the way up to a Miyota, I guess you can consider as a better because of the 4 hertz, all the way up to Swiss, Lejeune Perret. We saw that with Jack Mason. It's just really exciting, man. It's a lot, but at the same time, it's nice to have a lot because it gives you a lot to chew on. You just kind of have to get in where you fit in, get in where what excites you the most, right? And then take it from there, So It's bigger every year. DC and New York are my favorite shows. Yes, likewise, likewise. But Lone Ranger, I don't know how far you are from Philly. It's very intimate, and I think that those shows have their advantages as well. When you don't have a crowd of too many people around you, and you could really zero in on talking to a brand that you may not have seen. Do a little homework on the Philadelphia show as well, and see if that would also pique your interest for that reason. Unless you want the best bang for your buck for your travel, I understand that. Lone Ranger facts. About 7 or 8 releases a year. Sheesh. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. Because they usually do a spread, right? So that's a lot. Elgin helps with Axios and lines, if I remember correctly. I need to look into that. So, JC, you seem to be very versed when it comes to Zelos. Send me some information that you come across, brother. I would definitely like to do some homework on that. I love to expand my knowledge on what they're involved with and how they're involved with. So for sure, brother man, I love that you're in. Oh, you even have the Zelos logo. Yo, are you him? um, Markwell has Markwell's working on something new. Yes, he is working on something new. Yeah. No, he didn't hear from me. He didn't hear from me. I think you're right, JC. He has expanded a bit in the last couple of years. Okay, so they're expanding. However, it seems, at least from what I'm gathering from reading forums, that Zelos is most interested in keeping it all under control. uh, him being able to call the shots, having all the say in the world when it comes to the brand, and I love that. I think he should stick to that. I think he already has been producing a well-oiled machine. So if it ain't broke. All right, guys. So we are super over the time. So I'm going to finish up on chat, and then we're going to sign off. I showed you everything that was in front of me. I'm super excited to give you guys. We're going to take this thing apart, not literally, but you guys know how I do with my reviews, and I'm getting a little bit more in front of the camera. I may attempt to be in front of the camera a lot more when I'm talking about this watch. We'll see. It's all time allotted, right? A lot of time goes into just, and I like to give you guys a little bit of behind the scene. I don't know if you're interested, but just so you guys know, an 8 to 10 minute video watch review normally takes me collectively, the whole shebang. Recently, if you look at my review videos, that takes me like 24 to 30 hours of editing the whole shebang, title, thumbnail, B-roll, talk over, close-up shots, this and that and third. So understand that that's a thing. And if you guys see a shift in the way I do my reviews, it's because I'm trying to calibrate the level of quality in the reviews while not sacrificing more time, but also not sacrificing the quality. So understand that that's the ratio, that what it really is. And again, I'm only doing this for a year, so it's nice to get the perspective of the guy with the fresh legs. That's what goes into it, right? And there's a whole bunch of other things that I'm learning along the way, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot more this year regardless. But I hope you guys are enjoying those deep dive reviews. I have so much passion making them, and there's so much fun and everything else. So I do appreciate the support, and just know that I'm always working on it. I think you're right, JC. He's expanded a bit years. I have Mark's first watch. Okay, so more of like that Mason vibe, right? That the first release that he did. Fantastic watch. When we talk about vintage, and he's also another brand that is self. What's that called? I'm saying in my head self-supplied, but like he pays for everything, right? Up front, right? It's not a Kickstarter where he's like half pregnant with the idea and maybe it becomes a hit, maybe we have backing. Again, no shade to those who have to do that. And again, Kickstarter gives you reach, so it's not just about money. However, there is something romantic about somebody who puts all their chips into their releases and just funds everything up front. And I know Mark Well is part of that caliber, so he's really heavily invested in his watches as is for that reason. I think you're Mark's first run, no shows out west. I hope. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about all the shows, bro. I just know like the Philly, the DC one. Like I haven't been super focused on the shows. You guys know that the New York Wind Up Show is my Super Bowl, so that's the only one that I really try to heavily invest in, and I have crazy ideas for that. But I hope you guys attend that. Whoever is going to attend the New York show as time gets closer, I know you may have plans for it and plans change. But for those of you that message me on Watch Crunch and stuff like that, let me know when the time gets closer to that October time for the New York Wine Up Fair. And this way we could arrange, because like last time I spent too much time just focusing on, as I should, being an enthusiast at the show, but also I was there as a creator too. So if you saw me, you kind of could see the glaze over my eyes, just like a kid in a candy shop trying to figure it out. But message me, let me know. I'd like to put together a dedicated day, probably the night that we're going to meet up on the Watch Crunch meetup that they usually do. So this way we could have conversations and connect a little bit more in person, because connecting with you guys is even more important than these shows, believe it or not, because you guys are here supporting me on a day-to-day. Will do, Sky. Darn, having a great time. Thanks, Sky. Yeah, man, no problem. This was a fantastic time, but I got to leave some in the chamber for next time. Again, we're going to be looking at an E. Stolman watch timepiece on the next unboxing episode for next week. It's always a good, appreciate you, brother. You are doing good, Scott. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, Oscar. Thank you so much. Ciao to all. Yeah, man. Shout out to the missus. Big time. Yeah. Just going to catch up, and then we're going to sign off. Now, too, do you have an email? Mrs. Santana, a.k.a. She's the queen. She's the boss. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We spent a lot of time here. This was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, and there's a specific reason why, let me know in the comments. I appreciate you guys for spending your most valuable, that was very pretentious, for spending your most valuable asset, which is time. And I hopefully will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. This was a lot of fun. Peace.